The most important thing to become a successful man, or this is going to be like the most important thing not to end up like a lone wolf. So half of you men are going to be drawn this way and the other half are going to be drawn that way. But you need to understand both, okay? You need to understand how not to be a lone wolf so that you will end up with the right men, okay? So you end up with the right men in your life. So over the years, okay, I have coached thousands of men in person for about 11 years, okay, and then online since 2019. And man, you know, I've seen so many men not fulfill on their mission, on their purpose, on the things that are in their heart because they try and do it on their own. And that's the bottom line. They endeavour to try and do this on their own. Massive, massive mistake. But when you talk to men, like, you can see why, you can understand why they attempt to do it on their own. Because they get hurt by other men, because they get let down, because they get misunderstood, because, you know, they don't understand what season they're in. So what I'm going to talk about today, all right, I'm going to talk about 3 groups of men, but in 3 different ways over 3 different timelines. Okay, I don't want to confuse you, but every single man you know will fit into these 3 categories. Okay, I mean every man you know, every man you've ever met will fit into these 3. But before I do that, right, what I want to do is I want to tell you a very quick story from, you know, one of the best men in my life, one of my best friends, okay? And I met Pete in 2003. He through another mate of his, we had a mutual mate that I was training, well, even before I was training Will Collins, man, since the 90s, okay? He used to get alongside us and train with fighters. You know, he wasn't a fighter, he was a businessman, but he loved what we were doing in the gym and fighting and so forth. So in 2003, I met Pete and he came and trained with me, okay, through Will. And it was just amazing. You know, I just loved the bloke from day dot. and that's what happens with a lot of our male relationships. We just connect real quick. Right values, yeah, similar values, maybe similar stages in life. Okay, if you understand that masculine journey, those stages that I've got in, I've got them in lots of different material anyway, in our Become a Better Man challenge and so forth. But that's what happens with it. So anyway, we've been mates. We've been good, solid mates for a long time. Always literally been involved in everything that I've done. Okay, from last week, doing one of our Become a Better Man challenge again with them, bringing a mate, to last year flying to the other side of the world over in the Mediterranean to spend a week with me, to you name it, my boxing program, like the Fire Like a Break, you name it. He's been involved in everything and has been obviously become a personal friend. But in 2020, when the pandemic happened, we'd done these sand dunes. We've been doing these sand dunes for a long time, every Saturday morning for like, since 2009, we'd always work, because I'll be doing different programs in person. It'd be a fitness session. We'd either be doing stairs, running up stairs, or up and down hills, or sand dunes. And it was amazing. It was a great camaraderie for men that were doing my programs. And then we'd have a swim. We'd go for coffee. You know, it was just camaraderie, you know, where because some things, you know, obviously we're talking about it, but then when you do it, you actually understand. That's the masculine journey, experiencing these things. And then, of course, when you teach others how to do it as well. So at the end of this sand dune session, we're all exhausted. We're looking for the beach, man. Let's jump in the water. And he kind of he asked me to hang back. And literally, he goes, I need to talk to you. And he goes, Gav, I'm cutting this short, you know. He goes, Gavin, are you with me? And I'm like, what do you, sorry man, I don't understand. He goes, are you with me? He goes, with what's happening with this pandemic, with these vaccines, with the government, because he's got a big organisation himself, looks after a lot of people relying on him in his community, and so he goes, hey, we may get shut down. He goes, are you with me? I said, of course I am. Mate, I've been with you through divorce, I've been with you through cancer, I've been with you all these different stages. Our kids are, mate, of course I am. You know, he's been with me, you know. Relationships are shared experiences would be like this. He has saved me, man, from situations with other men. Anyway, so I said, what are you talking about, mate? And as I said, long story short, he goes, a guy in another one of his kind of, mates, friendships, they'd known for 20 years, and there was something going down in this community that he was mates with this guy for a long time, and he said, Peter said to him, are you with me? And this is what the guy said. The guy said, I'm going to have to think about it. You know, and that hit Peter for a 6, okay? And hence why he asked me and what I thought. And I said to him, well, if he needs to think about it, you've got your answer. You know, I didn't need to, if anyone needs to think about whether they're going to be loyal to me, if they need to think about it, they're not loyal. Okay, so I said that, and he goes, you're right. Hence, which over the next period of time, kind of talking about it, thinking about it, and Pete kind of realised, and this guy, we had so many conversations. I'm pretty sure he came up with it instead of me. I don't know, but anyway, he kind of built on what I'm going to talk about. The third thing, that I'm going to talk about, the third group of men, or the third angle on this. So if you can imagine, and this is what he come up with, if you imagine a tight circle, let's call it your inner circle, the people that are like Pete, man, I've told Peter things I haven't told anyone else. Pete pretty well knows everything, about me, and as for a couple of other men as well, but he's an inner circle guy, but then, so you imagine that tight circle, and they say you're the sum total of the 5 closest people to you. So have a look at that circle, okay? And then there's, imagine a little bit wider circle. Okay, so for example, that could be people that you're connected with, maybe you're close with, maybe in a sporting club, maybe you do business with those people that are loyal clients, customers, maybe in a social setting, but you don't tell them everything, but of course you love them, you like them, you're with them, but they're not in a circle. They're a little wider, okay? So, and for me, man, there's a lot of people there, which is great. But then imagine if you've got the outer circle, maybe people that you know of, you're connected, you don't see them all the time, you're not even that really close, but you like them. One thing that drove my wife mad before we moved overseas, and back in our hometown, the Gold Coast, we'd go for a walk down the beach, and I would see everyone. I would be talking to everyone. There's a lot of people in that outside circle, right? So you get what I'm saying. But like that inner circle, I've got guys in that inner circle where I might only talk to, like since I've been overseas, I might only talk to them once a month or even every second month. Do you know what I mean? But like a very good guy who's in that is a guy called Brocky, right? And I first started training him was before like about 2008, but I remember a few years ago. This is probably maybe 21 or 22, and I was talking. He'd shifted away. Our lives changed, but. Obviously stay in contact with him and he's tight. I remember saying to him about, hey, listen, mate, I need a hand. I'm doing this rite of passage. He's done everything with me. It's funny. I remember thinking like he's done everything. He's cornered men. He's had to jump in and fight. He's fought. He sold raffle tickets for the mission. He's been a ring announcer. Goodness me, he's helped me pack up rings and set rings. Like literally, he runs groups of men for me. Pretty well, I can just put anything in his hand and say, can you do that? He knows most of the things he does better than me, and hence a lot of the men in my inner circle. We've done journeys together. But I remember one thing about Brocky, and this is, I says to him, couple months previous, I said to him, and about help, I need you to help me in this rite of passage. He said, of course. What are the dates? And I remember it was about a week or two leading into it. I asked him a few months before, and I rang him up to say, hey mate, you're right. He goes, of course I am. You told me. You asked me. I said, yes. And like this is a couple months previous. That's when guys are solid. You ask them once, you talk to them once. It's not like things have changed, but you get what I'm saying. So that I've got a few more men, but so in a circle, you got guys great relationship, knock around with them, a lot in common, etc. Then you got the outer circle, so you got those 3 times. But this is what happened with Pete, okay? Because really the next 3 group of men, okay, is same group but timeline. I'm talking about timeline. And I remember Lloyd Ross, and there's 2 amazing Lloyd Rosses, father and son. I don't know which one it come from, okay? But I remember, coming up from that, from those guys was some people you meet for a reason. Other people you meet for a season, and then other people it's for a lifetime. Okay, it's for a lifetime. So for example, with Peter, he had a guy that he met him for a reason, and it become a season, right? But obviously it wasn't for a lifetime. So Pete I don't even like to say made the mistake, but just misjudged the season, because the way Pete is, like, we're mates for life. It's like, well, I'm not going to say it's like a marriage, but, until, there is no end date, it's until. So what I'm getting to here, he misjudged that relationship, or maybe just didn't reassess it, or maybe like I remember with Lloyd Jr. I remember being mates for a couple of years, and he's another bloke who just started off doing my program. You know what I mean? Every bloke's got to be tested before they qualify as a gab top front mate. Hey, I'm joking, but I'm kind of not. Every man must be tested. To know a man's value, he must be tried and tested. And I'm saying that to you, but I'm saying that to me. We must continually be testing the metal. Otherwise, we end up like, maybe you know this guy, maybe you are this guy, you're telling war stories from 20 years ago, man, and they might be good, but it's not relevant today. The world is moving. So anyway, so I remember having a conversation with Lloyd and saying, mate, I need a friend, I need a mate, I need a guy that's really tight with me, around this particular area. And he goes, of course, I'm honoured. Like, yes. So these are conversations, obviously, that as men, we need to have. As men, if we don't have them, it could end up like Pete and season, a season, a lifetime, where it was a season, but we thought it was for a lifetime, or it was for a reason, and then people have gone. I remember many times meeting people when I was younger, and it was purely just for a reason. Oh, I learned something. I've been that guy where men have come into my life, okay, and for a reason, for a season, and like life is moving. Life is moving. And because if you don't have those conversations, you don't know what you're building. Other people may have moved on. I'm moving at a fast pace. I'm helping thousands of men. But one of my oaths is to give every man 100%. So you're in front of me, man. You get all of me. But sometimes if you don't understand the reason is done, the season is done, people can hang on, and obviously summer's coming, winter's coming. Like we're in different seasons. So I'm hoping. I had even recently, in the last couple of weeks, I had another mate. Okay. Flew here from Melbourne, from Sunshine, the Candy Man, right? Jamie Candy. We've been mates for 29 years, okay? Since 96, 95, 96, right? Been mates. And I don't see him all the time. Obviously, I'm on the other side of the world. But there's been a couple of times throughout that, coming on 30 years, where, man, he has been there for me. He has saved me. He's literally like a part of, he's like family, that's what happens with these lifetimers, like it becomes like family, but it's important to have these conversations with men, what season are we in? And we've been through seasons, man. Where it's been like I talk to him every day, the other time I talk to him every couple of months, so it changes. So I'm hoping you're getting the gist of this, and I mean, so we've got those circles. Then we've got those reason, a season, a lifetime, which is the time span of how long maybe people are staying in which circle. Do you know what I mean? Because some people I've had in my life that were in my inner circle, I'm thinking years ago of a couple of guys, man, the season's just changed. So they moved to the outer. Oh, man, it's like when I see them, it's like, or I have a conversation, it's like we haven't missed a day, but they're not in my inner circle, Hence, I'm not in theirs. Do you know what I mean? It's a two-way. There's an agreement here. So one thing that I've spoken a lot and really employed in that boxing program, Fight Like a Pro, particularly when men were going, there's three groups of men. You receive from somebody, you have that camaraderie, mates on the same page, the same level, similar level, but you understand each other's mission, so you help each other. Hence that old scripture in Proverbs, 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man. So very, very, in that boxing program, I would literally employ that, okay? So you'd be helping someone, same page as some, and then helping others. You receive, you get the gist, right? So what happens, men would come through that boxing program and want to stay involved. Okay, so then what I do is I put them with some cornermen. So I'd have a couple of cornermen at all different levels. Some guys have been with me for years, like with Pete, Brocky, and then other guys that just maybe been through the 10 weeks a couple of times. Other guys just fought, never. And then all of a sudden, I put them in a group with a couple of those guys, so they'd start helping. And over the next few years, maybe another 2, 3, 5, 10 weeks later of taking men through, we'd be helping the new guys. You'd really understand those principles. Hence, you would a lot of men would put that into their personal life, put that into their business life, put that into even their family life. One of the things with having 7 children is everyone's got to help somebody. We've got to pour something into, and I see that. I see, out of 7 kids, I see it happening, So gentlemen, and particularly, like I said, for the last, 5 or 6 years since 2019, 2020, where we're doing all these online programs about having accountability groups but every man's got really, the real joy, my real joy, okay, it comes from service, comes from helping others. But what's bigger and better than that is when men understand these 3 circles, they understand these 3, the reason, the season, the lifetime, and they understand that we've got men, we're going to need to receive from somebody, mates on the same page and helping others. When I see men, this is what gives me joy, beyond even service, is when I see men employing these things and start to build that in their community, in their place of business, in their sporting clubs, and when they start to understand and just spread it everywhere. That's what makes me so happy, where we've got men, that have literally have their own communities and employ these principles, these laws, these philosophies, these principles, where everybody benefits. Everybody's receiving from somebody. Everybody's got mates. Everybody is of service. And when we understand that, I'm telling you, that's, men, I believe we will, you can't do the lone wolf thing and expect to be a successful man. You may have a season where you spike, but it will not last. This masculine journey is about going the distance. It's not a destination. It's about going the distance until there's more men to help. There's more people to help. There's more people that need to hear this. There's more men that need to hear this. So on that, I would love that you would share this with somebody and ask them, what do you think? What sticks out to you? Because, gentlemen, we've all made mistakes. I talk about what happened with Pete. I've made that mistake. I've overlooked certain things. People have overlooked when they've had relationships with me. They've overlooked these things, even though I taught them it. Even though it was on discussion, But gentlemen, one of the things, and I'll finish on this, particularly around rite of passage. I do a thing when we go through a rite of passage, when iron sharpening ironing, right? And particularly when we start to really speak into other men's lives, the strength that we see in other men's character. Not what the world, not what they post, right? But what they see inside that man, when men can get to a place when they can look past their hurts, their mistakes, their fears, their shortcomings, and start to speak, almost prophesy all the good stuff that they see in a man and encourage him to develop that. Man, that's how we change the world in that. So, hey, listen, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to put this together and serve you. Over and out.